Today on Grub and Grunge, bacon and eggs. So here we have our beautiful piece of pork belly. What I did was I painted some vinegar on the skin, let that sit for a few hours, and then I completely crusted the top in salt, and I let it sit in the refrigerator overnight to really put out as much moisture as possible. Then the next day I wiped it off and I let it sit again overnight with no salt. So that is 2 full days of sitting in a refrigerator, one night with salt, one night without, to dry out the skin nicely. You can see this lovely green goo in there. That's the rosemary, garlic, little bit of Worcestershire, little bit of mustard, little bit of soy sauce. The soy and the Worcestershire just giving some depth to the marinade, and some salt and water to bring it all together. And I was kind of doing it as like a brine slash marinade just for the meat. I'm gonna slow roast this in the oven at 250 with a water bane. Here we have the pork in the oven. I'm gonna keep it in the marinade. Butter melted, eggs in, take it off the heat, and stir. So what I'm doing here is whisking pretty vigorously just to even the cooking as the eggs slowly cook. What I'm doing is keeping the heat a little higher than I need and moving the pan on and off the heat to regulate the cooking. Especially with electric stoves, the heat goes on and off and it can cook your eggs too quickly. I just put some pepper in the eggs because I want that to be a prominent flavor that stands out and permeates through the dish. Ultimately, the Parmesan cheese and the black pepper in this egg dumpling is gonna be what helps make this dumpling stand out in the dish. So here we are, getting very, very close to my desired consistency. The egg is definitely cooked already. No longer raw. But I want it to firm up just a little bit, because if it's too loose, I don't think it's going to help the dumpling hold. This is the consistency that we're looking for here. So now I'm going to incorporate my cheese. Now we're going to cool it off. I'm going to put this in the fridge for about 20 minutes and then I'm going to start the dough. Most of the liquid has evaporated out. The skin is starting to cook, as you can see. What I'm going to do is now, to start getting some color, because that is just a lot of liquid and juiciness, I'm going to put the pork on a rack. Okay, let that kind of drip in there. Maybe I can use that for a sauce later. And I'm gonna get a little bit, just a little bit of oil on top here. It's really, really still dense, not tender yet, so see you in a bit. I'm gonna make the dumplings. Now, I'm basing this off of a simple bread recipe on how much flour and water ratio I'm going to use. I'm going to add about 50 grams of water. I was going to add 70, but my egg mixture has moisture in it as well. About a gram of yeast. Mix time. So I added the eggs in. And this is kind of what we're looking at. It's still really sticky. So I'm going to add some flour to it and start kneading it a little bit. I want to develop gluten here because I want it to be a little chewy. But I also want it to be delicate. So we're going to see what kind of balance I could strike up here. It's a little wet, and I'm okay with that because I don't want a really bready dumpling. I definitely want a moist dumpling, so I'm okay with this texture here. Here's our egg dumpling dough, or really our bread egg dumpling dough. I let it sit yesterday for a few hours, and it really didn't rise at all, so I wasn't sure what was going on with the yeast because I just wasn't sure. So I said, you know what, I'm going to let it sit out for a few more hours, and it started to rise by itself. So I let it rise for about 8 hours, and it almost doubled, maybe 70%. And then I let it sit in the refrigerator overnight. Just roll a little dumpling dough. After rolling my second one, I realized I don't think this is going to work out. I'm smushing all the air out while rolling it. It doesn't make sense. So what I did was I took a scissor, do a little bit of a pull, and I'm cutting pieces off, not aggravating all the air bubbles that the yeast so lovely created. And we'll just do little rustic pieces. I'm going to get nice marks, and then I'll put it up here to warm through. We're going to try and plump this skin without burning it. Did a pretty good job of burning it. That's okay. A little more color on this side here. This is our pork. It's a little black, but it's nice and crispy on top. So let's take this in, let's let it rest a little bit. Here's all my pulled pieces. I'm gonna give these just a very quick boil and throw right into the pan over here that I have kind of preheated, a low medium heat. But first what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna saute my onions, my asparagus, and my kale in some butter while I'm getting my dumplings ready on the side. So we get some onions in there. Saute. Don't want any color, just want a little wilt. Kale can go in with this as well. Just made nice long pieces. Can get in our asparagus. Okay, now while this is going, I'm gonna put this over here to just kind of carry over for a little bit while this cools down. I'm gonna start boiling these bad boys. Okay, it's gonna quick, probably about 15 or 20 seconds in the water just to develop a skin, and then I'm gonna finish them in this pot over here. I don't mind if water gets in here really, because I want the steam to help everything cook, like the asparagus and the kale. I'd say everything's ready. Well, let's try one of these guys. Oh yeah, they feel good. So I'd like to develop a little bit more of a sauce. So I'm going to put another pat of butter in there, a little more water, just a wee bit of that starchy water. Let it boil pretty quickly, and then I'm going to finish it with some lemon juice, and we're going to plate. So here we go. So we're going to put pork belly down, skin side in. Some of these guys. I like the rustic shapes that we have here. Start getting some of this stuff in there. This pot is huge. Come to me, asparagus. Come. I know you want plating. Cheddar on. Remember that cheddar? It's acidic, salty, and fatty. I'll just round out the dish. Yes, loving it. Okay, so we're going to start with the pork first because, yeah, pork. It's really good. Crispy skin. Super juicy fat. The meat is super tasty as well. It's really nicely seasoned. The rosemary and garlic completely come through from that marinade, but in a very non-intrusive way. It really adds to the flavor. and doesn't subtract. Okay, let's try the egg dumplings. Get a little, that bad boy. Texture is the first thing I really love about it. It's chewy like bread, but definitely not dense at all. Airy. Bready. I'm not getting enough egg. I think I'd want more egg flavor. But still good. I get the black pepper. Again, not intrusively. Complementary. The cheese is great. Butter is great. The veggies are great. I love veggies. Overall, I think it's a good dish. Does it need tweaking? Yeah, just like any other dish. But it's really good. So, bon apps, huh?